Hi guys. So my name is Abhilash and of course I'm your favorite VRC educator. Guys, you know that we are doing this RC Skill Builder series where we are talking about reading comprehension, how to solve questions on reading comprehension, what all you need to do, how you will take this step by step and so on. So I hope you're continuing on this journey with me where we are going to be today discussing true and false except type of questions. Now this question is a type of extension of the factual or the supporting detail questions, because in the supporting detail questions they ask you to identify the supporting details. So which of those are true as per the passage or false as per the passage. Here now we are going to be talking about questions which are true as per the passage except and false as per the passage except. So let's not waste any more time, let's get started. My name is Abhilasha. Here's a little bit about me also. So I've been teaching for the last 22 years. I have cracked 99.99 percentile 9 times in CAT VRC. I've co-authored a book called Quantitative Aptitude and Reasoning. This is an excellent book for OMETs. Trained over 1 lakh students, CAT, CLAT, GMAT, GATE, SSC, Bank, PO, UPSC and so on are the exams that I have helped students crack. Okay, so agenda of today's class, of course, how to do the true except question, false except, what are the different formats, how to solve, and of course a bonus section also. What the bonus will be is something that we will discuss once we come to that. So, chalo shuru kar dete hain. Okay, true except, false except questions in RC. Like I said, this is an extension of the supporting detail or the factual question, right? So as we have already spoken about the supporting detail or factual questions, we know that in the supporting detail, the questions I expect you to answer from the passage. Whatever is mentioned in the passage is what will be your answer to. So here when you're looking at false except or true except, the questions will ask you stuff from the passage. And then we'll ask you to identify if they are true or false and eliminate those options, and whatever remains will be the correct answer. So let's take a look at this question step by step. There are 4 types of questions in true except or false except. So it can be as per the passage, something is true except, something is false except. So that is two types of questions. And then there are 2 types of questions which are based on inference also. So the question could be asking you which of these can be inferred to be true and then accept. Okay. Or it could ask you which of these are inferred to be false and then identify the except. So these are 4 types of questions that you can get on true and false except questions. The true except and the false except are based on the supporting details. The inferred to be true except and inferred to be false except will be based on inference also. Okay. Now we have already learned how to solve the supporting detail or the factual questions, and we have also learned how to solve the inferential questions. So therefore it is not very difficult for us to solve these questions. Remember, when they're asking you as per the passage, according to the passage, each of these is true except, or each of these is false except. So what you do is identify all the true answers and then whatever remains will be your answer. Or if it is saying false except, then identify all the false ones and whatever remains will be the answer that you need to understand. The trick here is not just spotting the questions, the trick here is in paraphrasing. Because of course in CAT or in XAT or in any of the top exams, they never give you the statements directly. So what they do is they actually paraphrase the statements, they rewrite them in different forms and then they give them to you as options. So for you it is key that you should be able to paraphrase the statements, to understand them and then take it forward from there. So the most important skill for you as a reader or as a test taker is the ability to paraphrase the options. So when you are solving a question, it is very important that you are able to paraphrase, you are able to read the question, you are able to understand the options and then see if they are true or if they are false according to the passage, or if you can infer those, or if you can infer those to be false, whichever ways, whatever the question is asking. Generally they ask you true except or false except. Infer to be true भी कभी कभी दिखा, infer to be false तो एक ही बार दिखा है और उसके बाद दिखा नहीं है, thankfully नहीं दिखना चाहिए. That is a question type that is actually logically incorrect, and therefore what can you solve about that question? Anyway, so if they ask you what is the true false except in reading comprehension, so we understand that it is looking for a fact and then removing the fact, whatever is left is the exception answer. So the exception answer actually is the opposite. So if it says true plus except, you are actually looking for the false answer. So you have to spot the false statement. If it asks you false plus except, then you're actually looking for the true answer, and that's your task to identify these and spot these as your answer. Okay. Now let us take a look at a few things. Okay. So what is a fact? That is the first thing you should understand. Then what is true except and false except. Now anything that is a fact, let's go back to this. A fact is anything that is stated in the passage. So whether it is right or wrong doesn't matter. If the passage states it, it's a fact. Okay. So questions when they ask you according to the passage or in the passage, according to the writer and such like things, you know they're asking you to identify the facts as per the passage and then take the question forward accordingly, right? So if the passage says the sun rises in the west, okay, and then they ask you for a true plus except answer. So the fact that sun rises in the west is true here. Pay attention. It may not be true according to what you and I know. But here, because this is stated in the passage, therefore this is true. So the true plus except answer may be that the sun rises in east. Because according to the passage, the sun should have risen in west. So that was true. This now becomes the true plus except answer, or whatever your answer should. So remember this, that when you're looking at a true plus except answer or a false plus except answer, the true thing is what is mentioned in the passage. Okay. So that's very important that we are able to spot it and that we are able to take it forward from there. So be very careful and cautious of this thing. Okay. So just be very careful and cautious about this thing. So fact is anything that is stated in the passage. Now if they had asked you inferred to be true and the statement had said that the author is on Venus or Uranus. Okay. And if it had said find it if this is true or this is true or false. Well, see, if the sun rises in the west, then you can only be in two planets on our solar system, and those would be Venus or Uranus. So this can be inferred to be true. So now this statement is something that is inferred to be true. You understand? So therefore, if it is inferred to be true, then it cannot be a true except answer. Okay? Then it would have to be just the true answer. So this cannot be the correct answer in that case. So while you are reading the passage, you must be able to identify the difference between true and false as per the author. So the fact or the supporting detail question or the true except or the false except question is very closely based to facts. So whatever is a fact, from there you will take your true except or your false except answers. Now how do you solve it, right? So number one, of course, you have to understand what is a fact according to the passage that is stated. We will take a look at that. Then what is the exception? So eliminate all the facts that are mentioned in the passage. Then you find out what is the exception. So true plus except will be false, false plus except will be true. So remember that. Then you go to the question and identify the keywords in the question. Okay, so read the question. Whatever are the keywords in the question. Then go to the passage. Okay, look up that keyword. Okay, search for that keyword. Couple of lines above, below, please read that very carefully. And then try and find whatever is true. Okay, all the things that are true, eliminate, eliminate, eliminate. Okay, so that, and then whatever is left will be the correct answer. Remember here what you have to do very carefully is paraphrase the options. Okay, because if you don't paraphrase your options well, then you will find it very difficult to solve the questions. Because in CAT the options are framed in a very peculiar manner. तो बहुत ही ज़्यादा peculiar तरीके से frame करते हैं, बहुत oddly करते हैं, और वो हमें ध्यान रखने की ज़रूरत है. We have to be very careful with that. Okay, so you have to be very cautious, very very careful with that. So pay attention, be very conscious about that. All right, let's take a look at this passage. Oh. And we'll take a minute and read this and try and solve this, okay? All of you, for anyone who's out there, what you can do is you can pause the video if you don't want to hear me speak. You can pause the video for as long as you wish to. Read the passage and then take it forward from there. Okay? All right, so let's read. Stoker's research looks closely at how family influences merge with cultural trends and landmark events to mold generations. In 2014, she tracked women's voting behavior after the 19th US constitutional amendment was ratified. Ratified means it was accepted, right? All the parties agreed to it. In 1920, officially given women access to the ballot, so they were allowed to vote. Following that legislation, Stoker found women's voting numbers inched up very gradually. So they went up very, very slowly. They didn't show up at the ballot box in droves. So they did not come in large numbers. Instead, they voted in low numbers that climbed the stair-step fashion over decades. So slowly, 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 their numbers increased. It did not increase like a surge. Okay. It wasn't until the 1980s that women's voting rates reached parity with the men's. So till 1980s this did not happen. So from 1920 when it was allowed to 1980s, that is 60 years. The women did not come up in big numbers and vote. It was only around 80s that they started voting in as big numbers. That slow transition suggests that early life influences held back older generations of women from voting. So this slow transition, that means such few women coming out to vote and only later that lots of women started voting, it suggests to us, it tells us that early life influence, anything that has taught you, that has happened to you in your early life, held back generations of women from voting. So they did not like to vote because in their families they would have heard women don't vote, voting is not good, it is not a woman's right, and so on. Since they had come of age means to become adults, in a social climate that viewed female suffrage as suspect, so they believed that women's right, female suffrage means rights, okay, as suspect. So they did not like the idea of women's liberation. They stayed home even after the 19th Amendment was passed. So these women did not really come out to vote even though they had been given the voting rights. It didn't matter if you extended the right to vote. They did not want it. Stoker says. These women still won't. So they did not want to. But the first active women voters, younger and more receptive to change, grew up in a society that increasingly cast voting as desirable for all. So now these women who were born in the 20s, after 1920 till 1980s, now they were hearing that women need to vote, women should vote, women are allowed to. So what happened is that when they grew up, they were interested in voting because they knew it made a lot of sense. So these women, the young ones, were very willing to vote because the social climate at their time was such that it was perfectly okay to vote. Their social climate was not against voting, right? So they were like, okay, cool, let us all go and vote. That's the thought. Okay. So that context primed their openness to women's suffrage. So because they were coming from a generation that voting was already allowed to them, so their desire for feminism, for liberty, for the rights of women was so strong that they were ready and they were willing to go out and vote. It was not that they did not want to or they were scared about it. Okay? Before it came to pass, so they were already ready and hastened their adjustment to it once it did. So once the women's right or women's liberation happened properly, they were very willing to adjust and accept it as their right and their due. So it was the younger lot who were very willing. The elder ones did not really want to do it because their society told them not to vote for them. Their social upbringing, their life, their family had told them to stay away from the voting. Okay, I hope you've understood this. Let's go to the question. The question is each of the following is true as per the passage except. Remember when it says true plus except, you are looking for the answer that's false. But the way ahead will be spot the truths, eliminate them, whatever remains will be your answer. So let's take a look. Younger women took readily to voting once the 19th Amendment was passed. Okay. So yes, this is true. Older women viewed voting as unacceptable as the voting was suspect while they were growing up. So when they were growing up, voting was questioned. So therefore, they did not view voting as acceptable. So true. The 19th Amendment gave women the right to vote is also true. So I've eliminated A, I've eliminated B, I've eliminated C. Let me just look at D and see if it is the right answer. Before the 19th Amendment was granted, the suffrage movement was dying a slow death. Well, we don't really know if the suffrage movement was dying a slow death, right? So this is something that is not really mentioned in the passage. Okay. So pay attention, it is not really false, but it is not mentioned in the passage. And because I have already eliminated A, B and C, so therefore D becomes our correct answer choice. I hope you got that. So correct answer choice D. Alright, one more from the same passage. Each of the following is false as per the passage except. So let's take a look. Stoker, so again false plus except will be what? Eliminate, so this should be true. So what will we do? We will eliminate all the false options. Whatever remains will be the answer. So Stoker researched the influence of landmark events on family. The 19th constitutional amendment was ratified during late 1900s. The American women voted in big numbers after getting the right to vote, and the American women were apprehensive about voting initially because of their conditioning at home. So Stoker researched the influence of landmark events on families is actually incorrect. The exact opposite of this was given in the passage that Stoker was researching the influence of family on landmark events. So this is false. So let me eliminate. The 19th constitutional amendment was ratified during late 1900s. No, it was ratified in 1920. So late 1900s would be after 1950 or something. So incorrect. False. American women voted in big numbers after getting the right to vote. No, the first 60 years they hardly voted. So false, eliminate. The American women were apprehensive about voting initially, okay, because of their conditioning at home. Yes, at home they were being conditioned that it is incorrect to vote, right? It is wrong. And so therefore this is true and that's why this is going to be the correct answer. Okay, I hope you understood this. This is how we solve this question. Now the question types here could be of any of these types. So each of the given statement is true according to the passage except. According to the passage, each of the following is true except. As per the given information, these options are true except any of these. Or it could be false except also. So each of the given statement is false except. Remember to read the question fully. According to the passage, each of the following is false except. or according to the given information these options are false except. So while you're reading the question, be very careful and don't miss out on the except, because that will change the game. So one very important thing for you is to read the question very carefully. That's life and death for all of us. Okay. Alright. Very quick input on how to solve. Read the question carefully. Interpret the question. What is it asking you? True plus except will be false. So eliminate all true options. What remains is your answer. Okay. False plus except will be true. So eliminate all false options. What remains is your answer. Whether it is a factual question or an inferential question, the process will remain the same, guys. Remember that? That's very important for us to remember. Now the correct answer will be the opposite of true or false as per the question. So if it's true except, then false, and false except, then true. The incorrect answer types would be true or false answer accordingly. The shell game, which appears to be similar but is not really similar. The out of scope answer, which misses the point or the conclusion. And then extreme options. Any option that uses extreme words such as all, none, no, never, always, will, must, etc. These are extreme options and they may not be the correct answer for us. So you can eliminate those also. Alright, let's take a look. Here is a very nice passage, small one, from some Aon article. I don't remember which one, but a very interesting one. So let's take a minute, read it again. Like I keep telling you, you can pause this video if you just want to read it by yourself. Indeed, over the past century, the global trend has been one of gradual generational movement towards human rights, questioning established authority and maximizing fulfillment to the many. So the global trend is what? That the generations are moving towards human rights, they're questioning established norms of authority, they are maximizing fulfillment. That means happiness is the goal. This movement was already underway in the US with the young boomers of the 1960s, who are often upheld as the ultimate rebels, the hippies who got a lot of detention. Says Paul Taylor, a former Pew researcher and the author of The Next America 2016. Even so, he tells me, later generations have become still more liberal, which makes sense according to Inglehart's theories, because the Western world has progressed further into post-materialism. That means now that was the materialistic world. Now we've gone into the next level, which is post-materialism, since the Haight-Ashbury years. Okay, alright, let's take a look at the question. Each of the following is true except. So remember, true plus except should be false. Let's read it. So generations are moving slowly towards asking for human rights. Established norms of authority are slowly being broken or disputed. The boomers in the US have often been considered the most rebellious ones. The Haight-Ashbury years have no longer the distinction of being the most rebellious. Okay. So which of these are true? Take a minute. So let's take a look. So generations are moving slowly towards asking for human rights is true. The very first line of the passage said that. Established norms of authority are slowly being broken or disputed was also mentioned there. So true. Cannot be my answer. Cannot be my answer. The boomers in the US have often been considered the most rebellious ones. Well, you have seen that this is not true. Right? The passage said that this is false. So therefore cannot. So this should be my answer. The Haight-Ashbury years have no longer the distinction of being the most rebellious. True. Because it is now the next generation, the postmodern generation, post-material generation that is the most rebellious ones. So therefore, correct answer will be C. That's the one that is false and therefore the correct answer. Alright. Okay. Here is another part of a small passage. We will take another minute, read and then solve. So pause, read and then solve. The political scientist Amanda Friesen of Western University in Ontario, Canada has studied this phenomena across recent generations. She surveyed college students. So what is this phenomena that we are trying to study? She surveyed college students born in the 1990s and their parents and grandparents, asking them how they prioritize the values of caring, fairness, loyalty, obeying authority, and sanctity, keeping things pure or unblemished. For example, following religious doctrines without changing or diluting them. So she asked the children, their parents, and their grandparents. Friesen picked out some substantive generational differences. Substantive means substantial, big ones. For the most part, older generations valued authority and sanctity more highly than their younger counterparts. This finding accords with those of researchers like Inglehart, showing an incremental yet meaningful shift in values through the years. So there has been a shift in values, incremental, slowly, but a very meaningful shift in values. Just as striking were the similarities that Friesen found also. So however, it says that something very interesting is happening. Just as striking also says that this is the surprise, that there were many differences, but there were many similarities also. From one generation to the next, participants endorsed values of fairness and caring. So they said, oh, we must be fair and we must care. Just as my parents did with me and I'm trying to do with my own sons. There is this through line. So it is going through the generations. Trainer says, every individual life is important and should be respected. You recognize that we're all different. You celebrate that and you try to build a society that accommodates that. Each generation, however, interprets such bedrock values in its own ways, based on the unique climate, cultural, social, and economic in which it comes of age. So all generations are treating them differently, but the values remain the same. Today's younger cohorts, reared on fairness and harm prevention, have come to embrace gay rights and trans rights that a larger share of their parents' generations rejected. So parents were not accepting it. These children are accepting it now because they have heard of fairness, harm prevention, and so on. Okay. All right. Let's look at the question. So according to the passage, each of the following is false except. Remember, false plus except will be what? It will be true. So your task is to find the one that is true. You can pause the question here and solve it for yourself. Friesen found hardly any similarities with Inglehart's research. Well, very peculiar. Hardly any means none. Okay, but that is not true. The passage had said that there are many similarities, so this is false and therefore cannot be my answer. The values of fairness and caring are not as much appreciated by the children as they were by the parents. No, the author said there is a through line. So false and cannot be right. Everyone is different and yet everyone is fundamentally the same. But is everyone fundamentally the same even though they are different? The passage does not say that, so false. Eliminate. Gay rights and trans rights are accepted by the younger generation, though they were not by their parents, is true according to the passage. Just the last part of the passage said it. And therefore, the correct answer will be D, guys. Okay? I hope you got that. So, eliminate. Whatever is remaining is the correct answer. So, D is the correct answer. Alright, guys. Here is a small passage from CAT 2022. And we will read it and we'll try and solve it together. Okay. I hope this font is clear to you. Okay. Again, you can pause it for a minute and solve. Chinese have two different concepts of a copy. Fangzipan are imitations where the difference from the original is obvious. These are small models or copies that can be purchased in a museum shop, for example. The second concept for a copy is Fuzipin. They are exact reproductions of the original, which for the Chinese are of equal value to the original. It has absolutely no negative connotations. The discrepancy with regard to understanding of what a copy is has often led to misunderstandings and arguments between China and Western museums. The Chinese often send copies abroad instead of originals in the firm belief that they are not essentially different from the originals. The rejection that then comes from the Western museum is perceived by the Chinese as an insult. So they think that it's the same thing. The Western people don't think, so there is a rejection, and that the Chinese find it insulting. The Far Eastern notion of identity is also very confusing to the Western observer. The Ise Grand Shrine in Japan is 1300 years old for millions of Japanese people who go there on pilgrimage every year. But in reality, this temple complex is completely rebuilt from scratch every 20 years. So it becomes new, but we think that they think it is 1300 years old, right? The Cathedral of Freiburg Minster in southwest Germany is covered in scaffolding almost all year round. Scaffolding means construction material, okay, on which you stand and make things. The sandstone from which it is built is a very soft porous material that does not withstand natural erosion by rain and wind. So after a while it crumbles. So as a result, the cathedral is continually being examined for damage and eroded stones are replaced. So stone टूटता है हटा देते हैं, नया लगा देते हैं. तो probably सारा cathedral नया बना चुके होंगे. फिर भी कहते क्या है, it is a so many years old. And in the cathedral's dedicated workshop, copies of the damaged sandstone figures are constantly being reproduced. Of course, attempts are made to preserve the stones from Middle Ages as long as possible. But at some point too, they are also removed and replaced with new stones. Fundamentally, this is the same operation as with the Japanese shrine. Except in this case, the production of a replica takes place very slowly and over long periods of time. In the field of art as well, the idea of an unassailable original developed historically in the Western world. That you will have one original. Okay. Back in the 17th century in the West, excavated artworks from antiquity were treated quite differently from today. They were not restored in a way that was faithful to the original. They were not restoring just like the original was. Today they are doing it in a very different manner. Instead, there was massive intervention in these works, changing their appearance. So they made big changes. It is probably this intellectual position that explains why Asians have far fewer scruples about cloning than Europeans. My God, we were talking of statues and from there we have come to cloning. Imagine this. कहाँ से कहाँ आ गए? The South Korean cloning researcher Wang Woo-suk, who attracted worldwide attention with his cloning experiments in 2004, is a Buddhist. He found a great deal of support and followers among Buddhists, while Christians called for a ban on human cloning. Very interesting, huh? Wang legitimized his cloning experience with his religious affiliation. I am Buddhist and I have no philosophical problem with cloning. They can copy, right? And as you know, the basis of Buddhism is that life is recycled through reincarnation. So you have reincarnation and life is coming back again and again. So in some way, I think therapeutic cloning restarts the circle of life. So if you're cloning something as a therapy, well then that is perfectly okay and acceptable. Very interesting thought, guys. This is very, beautifully interesting. So yeah, all right. So let's come to the question. Here is one question. Okay. So the value that the modern West assigns to an unassailable original has resulted in all of the following except. So the West says there is one fixed original, right? And they give that a lot of value. So because you are saying there is only one original, that has resulted in many things. So what all it has resulted in, you will eliminate those and whatever will remain will be the except answer. Okay, so anything that comes from this concept of one original has to be eliminated and then whatever remains will be the correct answer. So again, I will say pause your question here. Take a minute, read it and then we will try and solve it. It discourages them from simultaneous displays of multiple copies of a painting. Well, because they think there is only one original, so how can you have multiple copies? Then those are fake. So they will not display multiple copies at the same time. So therefore this will happen. So this is the result. Okay, and therefore this cannot be our answer. I'll eliminate. It allows regular employment for certain craftsmen. Because you have to be original. So certain craftsmen will have their own jobs. They will make original creations. Right? So result, original people, original artists. So eliminate. It discourages them from making interventions in ancient art. So what happens is that they are discouraged. They do not like making changes. So therefore yes, because then they think it is a fake. So result. Okay. It discourages them from carrying out human cloning. Oh. I think I have got an answer wrong here. Right? Very clearly. The minute I came to D, I knew B had to be the right answer. It discourages them from carrying out human cloning because there is only one original, therefore they don't want to do cloning. So this is also a result of this, right? So eliminate. So the only one that could be a possible answer has to be B then, right? Because all the others can be eliminated as a result of being the original. Okay? Let's just go back to the passage. See, it is probably this intellectual position that explains why Asians have far fewer scruples about cloning. Right? So they don't want the interventions. So correct answer should be Bangalore. B. It allows regular employments for certain craftsmen. Okay. Alright, with that we come to the end of today's session, guys. I hope the session was helpful to you. Let's quickly go through some announcements. Here is a list of all my CAT 2022 results, and of course, okay, well, the CAT with the biggest festival offer, there is a price slash of 25% on 12 months and above plus an iconic subscription. Be the first to join the Champions batch for 23. Offer is valid from 12th to 18th of July. And here is the plus off and here is the iconic off. You can use this code, that's AbhiCat Live, and join. Here is a list of all our CAT toppers. Again, a list of some more of our CAT toppers. The Champions batch for CAT 23 starts on 18th of January. The code remains the same. Please make sure you're joining in. Okay. Here, Champions batch, 18 January, USPs, 1 subscription, structured courses, 25,000 practice questions, in-class doubts, educated curated notes, mentorship also. Okay. The Perfect Score batch for repeaters starts on January 16th, which will be a new batch. The code remains AbhiCat Live. Here is the educator panel for this batch. The Perfect Score batch for repeaters, again, like I said, 16th of January. USP, they will finish the batch syllabus by May 2023, 6 months of extensive revision and practice, 1 subscription for access to all batches, 25,000 practice questions, 100 plus mock tests, in-class doubt solving, educator curated notes, and mentorship from CAT experts and Aon graduates. Okay. The GDPR batch is already started on 10th of January. Again, the code remains the same. You can join right away. Okay, here's our Unacademy CAT subscription plus an iconic. These are all the features for the plus subscription. These are the features for the iconic subscription. The light subscription is available for mocks if you want to take 10 full-length CAT mocks, 4 OMET mocks, 25 sectional and 25,000 plus question bank. All you have to do is subscribe to us using AbhiCat Live and get a price of $9.99 only. Okay, what's new in my classes? We are doing reading comprehension currently, so do make sure you're joining in. Okay, on YouTube, 9 p.m. we are doing reading comprehension. This batch, the skill builder batch. On Let's Crack Verbal, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 10 a.m. The Hindu editorial RC and GDPI is happening Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 8 p.m. too. Also, special classes Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 5 p.m. Do make sure you're joining in, guys. Okay, if you are not yet connected with me, use these to connect with me on Unacademy. Find me by my name, that's Abhilasha Swaroop. Telegram, MBA CAT 23, LinkedIn, and my referral code is AbhiCat Live. You can use this to get amazing offs on Unacademy. Thank you so much. I hope this session was helpful. I will see you for the next session very soon.